So, Murray, I'm going to just invite you to say a few words about this really interesting building.
Okay, thanks, Siobhan. I think I'd like to also start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and future. So the Dr. Chau Chak wing building, and the name always trips me up a little bit because, to be honest with you, for the first few months I actually thought it was the Chau Chak wing. So it was actually the wing of the project, but it's actually part of Dr. Chau Chak's name. Or otherwise known as the crumpled paper bag. So we targeted this project as a project we wanted to win and deliver for a whole range of reasons, not the least of which being that UTS has been a long-term client of ours. But I must say the major point of interest for us was the form or the design and the designer. We've done a lot of work with renowned architects, international architects in Australia, and we're very interested to explore that with Gehry. Initially, we were a bit apprehensive about the form, and like many others, we carried out some research on these types of Gehry design buildings to get some feel for what the challenges may lay ahead. And I'm kind of sure that our team would have liked us to spend a bit more time, or maybe a lot more time on that in hindsight, but that's the way these things pan out sometimes. But when we pitched the project, and I still remember this vividly, we had our site manager stand up and present, and he was actually a former bricklayer, long-term tradesman, worked his way through the industry, and he got up, and the passion and the commitment he spoke about, and this might sound strange, but he spoke about working with bricks, and that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him to make this design a reality, was absolutely compelling. And I was sharing with Sean earlier that I felt that was the moment that we won that project, because had I been sitting on the client side then, there's no question I would have picked that guy to be on my team. And that passion and commitment has really eked right through the whole team throughout the whole duration of the project, which is coming to a conclusion. It hasn't been an easy build. There's been many challenges along the way, especially in marrying the leading technology in, which is BIM, but it's the Gehry version of BIM, Gehry technology, along with the need to use highly skilled artisan bricklayers to craft this unique facade, because and the brick and the material and the look is very much part of the Gehry sculpture.
So I might just jump in there, because I think that's very much around the essence of this project, that we do have this really high-tech design, that you had bespoke 3D modelling, the Gehry BIM, as you pointed out, and yet you've employed a really traditional building technique, bricklaying. Can you share with us what it's been like building and operating in these two really different worlds? I mean, it's really hard to fathom, actually. Yeah, sure. Well, it's been a big challenge, to be honest, and the use of BIM is still relatively immature in Australia, and we've been on that path for a couple of years, but the Gehry BIM's different again, and so we did some simple but difficult but practical things, like we had some very experienced foremen on our project, but we had some very tech-savvy young engineers that we brought onto the project as well, particularly to do with the facade. So we'd have one of the guys used to call his little laptop, his motion laptop, his Fisher-Price toy, because it looks like one of those Fisher-Price things, all the bells and whistles on it. But it was one of those heavy-duty laptops that he'd take every day to the workface with the surveyor, sit down with the bricklayers and pull the model up. Wow. Identify what RLs, how many levels they could, how many courses they could build, what level of corbel, which brick shape, because there are 5 or 6 specific discrete brick shapes to actually build the facade. And so it's really marrying this, these real, fantastic artisan tradesmen with the most modern of technology to almost map out on a brick by brick basis the facade. And very difficult, very challenging, inventing that a little bit as we went along with our tradespeople, but I think ultimately a great result. And tell us a little bit more about your master brickie. We saw him in the video earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, here he is, using his traditional technique and yet dealing with this 3D technology. It was a lovely story, though, how you brought him back.
Yeah, these are fabulous guys. I mean, Ray Pavetti runs their business and has since his father retired. He's run it since '89. His father retired actually around about 2004. Peter, who you saw on the video, is 75 now. I think Ray has a lot of trouble getting Peter to do any of the traditional things you do in retirement, like bowls or other pursuits. So when they got this project, Peter was champing at the bit to come out because he saw the design and he really just wanted to be part of it. So 75 years old, still laying bricks. And Ray really wanted his father Peter's help. His eye for quality, his eye for design. There are no straight lines in the whole of the project facade. A lot of this is done by eye. So yeah, look, it's actually true, and he is still incredibly excited about it, finishing the last bits of it today.
Fantastic. Now, Frank Gehry is a superstar architect, and when I was in architecture school, he was one of my kind of heroes, I have to say. Now, I understand there's a bit of a story as to how he was chosen. I'm curious, what was it like working with him, and did you actually see him pinch the brown paper bag?
Well, because we didn't select Gehry, and Gehry was selected by UTS for a whole bunch of reasons, and they actually give a pretty good rundown on that on their website. There's a bit of a scary quote though by Gehry, I must say, on the UTS website, where he says that he thought of this project as a treehouse, or the thinking of it as a treehouse came tripping out of my head. A growing, learning organism with many branches. Thought the tripping out of my head worries me a little bit. Yeah. But I can remember Gehry back when I went to uni down in Melbourne. I remember attending a lecture of Gehry's about creating social housing, low-cost social housing in California made out of cardboard. I mean, Gehry's out there. Massive ego, I guess, like most architects. We always say in my business, the highest ego per square metre area is where Lend Lease Design is on level 3. And that's a pretty big comparison given the number of high flyers we have in our organisation.
I used to work there, by the way.
But look, I think the experience was pretty good. The two main guys we worked with, Craig Webb and Brad Winklejohn, so just tell you that carefully. Craig, I think, is probably the heir apparent, and look, they're incredibly passionate, fantastic to work with. The one story I will tell you, which is a true story about the model, and you talk about, did I ever see him pinch the paper bag? Yep. I know one Sunday morning, Frank went into the office over in the States and wasn't that happy with the model and kind of grabbed it and squeezed it and left his finger indentations on one side but left his thumbprint on the north facade. And if you go and have a look at the completed building, you will see the thumbprint of Frank Gehry in life, or not more than life size, scaled up. And it's what we call the north facade thumbprint. It's a true story.